Hey, everybody. What's up, Paul Mitchell family? We have two amazing guests with us today. Two people that, quite frankly, helped me get through this COVID era. You are two people that I reached out to and found out through this. And a lot of good, even though there's a lot of bad associated with COVID, a lot of good is coming out. And one of the things I realized right away is that, hey, listen, I'm creative. I'm good with my hands. I had a business for 15 years. I know how to keep people pumping through it. But when the wheels stop turning, I need help. I need coaches. I need people who are experts. And lucky for me, I found Tom and Aaron from Qnity. Welcome, guys. Welcome.
Colin, welcome. Thanks for having us today.
Thank you so much. We're super excited to be here and get to know the Paul Mitchell family. So thanks again.
And they need to get to know you guys as well. So we had some good conversations. And one of the things I always feel like is, for me personally, I am super creative. I know how to make money. I know how to pay my bills, but that's just not good enough, right, anymore. And there's some things I learned from you guys really quickly. Let's tell everybody a little bit about what you do, what you guys bring to the table, a little bit about your background, and how important it is to learn from you guys on how to have a stronger business.
Well, we're a small business, like most of your listeners are. We're a father-daughter team, business partners. And really, the Qnity journey was all about helping people become more prosperous. And prosperity means not just earning great money, but also doing what you love and having a great quality of life. So we're a learning and development company. We're based in Minneapolis, but we're a virtual company. Aaron joined the company pretty early on and has just made a huge impact with our clients and really with getting the word out. So.
Yeah, and I think, one thing that I like to highlight is our purpose is really to help both individuals and leaders, owners, and managers prosper. And everybody's definition or personal definition of prosperity differs slightly and changes at different times, right? So for many people right now, stylists probably just want to get back to work, but it's also, at the end of the day, money is a little bit like oxygen. I can't even remember who says that quote, and it's really important to everyone. So we really look at prosperity as a holistic definition, and we make it simple and visual because there's a lot of noise today, especially right now more than ever. Zoom meetings up the wazoo, and so we're just trying to make it simple and visual for people. So that's a little bit about us.
And that's what stood out to me when I, when I was referred to you guys, is how visual you are. And that's really important to creative, right-minded people, right? It's the people that see things a little differently. Tom, I know you did something creative. You are also a photographer, right?
Yeah, I believe that there's magic in the middle. And I spent the first 15 years of my career as a CPA, working in a very left brain industry, about 30,000 hours, working with creative entrepreneurial businesses. And I really felt out of balance. I mean, I really felt that just part of my being I felt incomplete. Joining the professional beauty industry was huge for me because I learned to communicate visually. And also, really importantly, I also learned the importance of the heart. And so really 3 chapters to my career. First, very left brain, very linear thinking, financial, structure, system, strategy. Second half of my career is working with creative people. I've been a salon owner myself, and a lot of empathy for the artists. And then the last chapter of the career started with Qnity to put together the left brain and the right brain, the head and the heart, the people and the profit. So the idea behind Qnity is that everybody can prosper. But really the frustration that I had as a salon owner is I found a lot of financial education was built for financial humans, for accountants, very spreadsheet driven. The biggest fan of a spreadsheet is the creator of that particular spreadsheet. So we really learned how to take financial concepts, business concepts, and turn them into more of a visual format, primarily using a grid-based system to just meet people where they are. I don't know if you want to.
That's what appealed so much to me as well. It was information I understood, but what wanted me to listen to it or to even hear it was because I saw it unfolding visually. And I think that's really such an important piece of of the pie. A lot of us as creatives shy away from numbers. It's not a language we speak. And you guys do such a great job of blending those two worlds where you can understand your financials a little bit better and you're seeing it in a way that really resonates to an artist. And to me, that is the recipe for success. So well done. And I'm excited to show everyone here some of the ways that you guys think and how you guys come up with some things that are kind of daunting to people, but you guys make it very simple and doable.
Yeah, and before we get too far into this, I want to acknowledge you, Colin, and I want to acknowledge Paul Mitchell, your other educators, Anthony, Robert Cromians, John Harms, and all of you. You guys do just such an amazing job, and I did want to acknowledge you and thank you and everybody for watching today. So
yeah, man, thank you for that. And yeah, we're all coming together, and I think the industry is as a whole. So what are some of the things we're going to focus on today? And Aaron, I know you're jumping in and out today as well. Aaron's actually helping salons as we speak, right? You are, your phones are being ringing. You guys, in addition to some of the content you provide online and your online courses, you do coaching as well.
Yep. And we have a robust team of trainers. So you guys can learn more about us. I'm going to let the two of you have a wonderful interview and get more acquainted there. But I'm really excited to continue to work with the Paul Mitchell family. And thank you so much. And I will hopefully be back for one of these soon. So thanks so much.
For sure. We can't wait to have you back. You're a brilliant mind, and I can't wait to share that with everybody.
So nice to meet you, everyone. Thanks so much.
Thank you. All right. So what are we going to get into today, Tom? What are some things that the audience can expect to see, everybody watching?
Colin, I've been reflecting on the last 10 weeks. I was thinking about it over the weekend and spending time with you and the journey that we've been on and sort of how things have evolved over the last 10, 11 weeks and our journey. And it actually goes back to a little bit before that in the last fall. And for some reason, I felt compelled to put together a whole financial management, simple and visual type structure, sort of a body of work that was designed to really help people understand the financial part of the business, owners and managers. And then early March, I was down in Costa Rica, refreshing a little bit, and came back, and it was like, whoa. And ever since then, it's been a wild journey. And to give your viewers a little bit about some of the things we'll share today, talk about the journey a little bit. So first of all, immediately we realized that there was an immediate and sudden need to help level up the collective financial intelligence, know-how, management, because small businesses really struggle with financial management, not just salons. Very few actually have a budget. Most people rank themselves as being subpar as it relates to financial terms. And small businesses and individuals and stylists are going to be stretched like never before financially. So how can we rally the troops and really provide some relevant ways to move forward? So some of the things that we've shared with our community and some of the things I want to share with your listeners is as it relates to the financial side of the business. Well, first of all, we have a tool that we use. It's called a 9-grid. And a 9-grid is a visual thinking tool. It is a combination of multiple visual thinking tools all combined into one. And that's been the focal point of a lot of our communication. And I'll share with you some things about the 9-grid. So let me show you a blank 9-grid, all right? I've got it on the screen, and it's so simple. It just has 9 squares to it. But the magic doesn't come from the blank sheet, but what you do with it. And I'm going to give you plenty of examples of what you can do with it. It can be used as a mind map, which is to put something in the center and put your ideas out, get ideas out of your head and down on paper so you can move forward and get unstuck. It can also be used as a storyboard or a visual step-by-step. So some of the things that we've done, and this would maybe be a little bit more appropriate for the owners and managers, is we've really started to break down, here's a 9-grid of the new P&L. And one of the things that I want to share with your listeners, and this is going to be especially for owners and managers and those involved in the financial functions. For a stylist, we've got tips for you too, so stay tuned here. But the reality is that the old P&L, while the format's going to stay the same, the actual makeup of a P&L is going to change. And I think we all instinctively know that. But one of the things that we've done is we've started to create some structure around that, really flushing out what a new P&L looks like. And literally going down the P&L section by section and using examples. For example, we're living in the world of haves and haves not, right? Haves and have not. The haves are businesses that have opened. They're live, they're going. And then the have-nots are still in this big mystery stage. And what we've been able to do in the last 10 weeks is learn from the haves as they've opened. Like, what's going on with the numbers? Is it what you expected? Is it different? We've seen plenty of surprises around that, which is great because the haves, the one that have opened, are now able to provide some intelligence for the have-nots so that when they do open, they'll have a better idea what to expect. So let me share a couple things from that, okay?
Yeah, please.
Hot topic is pricing and pricing decisions. And people are all over the board on that. And we actually did a 9-grid just on that one topic. And some of the things to deal with pricing, everybody's got to make their own decision on pricing of services. But, you know, some of the things to keep in mind with pricing is, first of all, the impact on all your stakeholders, on your clients, on your staff, on your community. The other thing is, if you are going to change your prices, and by the way, we're seeing, and you know, to find relevant data right now is really hard, Colin. But just by inquiry, we're finding people all over the board. Many are raising their prices, and many of them are just keeping it the same. And then as it relates to people, businesses that are raising prices, some are doing them on a temporary basis, some are doing it on a permanent basis. Some are doing it as part of like a overall price increase, and some are doing it as a surcharge. Some are doing it on select services, some are doing it on all services. And then there's the whole communication piece. So that's an area where we've done 9 grids, and we've worked together as a community with our team, our clients, and everybody in general, is how do you make good decisions about pricing? So that's one example of new P&L.
And one of the things that I found really interesting is you and I were talking, salons, most of them that you're speaking to are doing well, right? And we don't expect that to be forever instance, but the first few weeks, that bottleneck situation kind of filtered out. And even though a lot of salons are working less time, right? Selling less time, less stations. In that middle, we found a lot of salons weren't as busy as they thought, correct? And that's kind of balanced out over the weeks, and salons are actually having bigger numbers.
Yeah, I actually did a video on this. It's on our YouTube channel, and I think it's titled, Why Getting to Your Pre-Pandemic Revenues Might Be Easier Than You Think. And what we're finding is that, listen, first of all, state by state, region by region is so different right now. It's hard to generalize. Some communities are just a fraction of their capacity. Some are more than others. But what we are seeing is after that initial opening, obviously we're seeing a decline in guest counts from a previous period just due to capacity. But average ticket is through the roof. Because they're coming in, there's bent up services, and we're finding many Georgia-based salons that in those first weeks, second, third weeks, some of them are over last year, and some are having their best week of 2020 in spite of being at half the capacity.
Amazing.
And I'm going to give you a little visual around that, okay?
Yeah.
So this is a visual dashboard, and I'll put it up to the screen. I'll hold it up really close, but basic, and I've got it tilted on purpose. If you look at 2 different ways to grow, either more clients or higher ticket, all right? And the 2 center circles we refer to as the speed and gas of the business. When you're driving a car, there's a lot of indicators on the dashboard. It's easy to get overwhelmed, but you never lose track of speed and gas. It's the same thing with client count and average ticket. And we're finding is that client count and average ticket are a little bit like a teeter-totter. They ebb and flow over time. And what's going on right now is client count's down, but average ticket is through the roof. And so a lot of the fear around the initial opening period and revenues is, at least for those initial weeks, people are pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, it's I've been hearing it across the board, and I love the visual on it because, again, it's something you want to be aware of because, again, if you're just cruising at a high speed and you're not looking at the gas, you're going to run out on the side of the road somewhere, and that party's going to be over, so to speak. It's keeping a gauge of both of those numbers and those levels so you can understand how to continue at that speed safely with gas. And I think you guys do such a great job of explaining those things and helping, even businesses like mine wrap their head around those kind of concepts, because you don't want to just get in the car and take off. And I think that's what a lot of people are doing when they're getting back to work. They're just getting in and, and hoping that it works out. And everything that you guys do too, again, it's for salon owners. You could be a booth renter, an independent contractor. This way of thinking doesn't really change based on what business model you have.
Yeah, there's this weird number out there, Colin, and it's 71%. And there's 3 separate beauty industry studies that show we miss typically 71 out of 100 opportunities. Wow. And what this does is it's phrased negatively, but it also gives a ton of hope, because a lot of salons and stylists have a lot of room for growth, okay? All of us have a lot of room for growth. The 71% opportunity is 3 different findings. Number 1, 71% of clients leave without 71% of clients are not offered a product. 71% of new clients don't come back for a second visit. And 71% of salon hours go unsold. So what that suggests, and here's some hope, is that there's a tremendous amount of room for growth. So, and this is one of the reasons why we're seeing hope for stylists when they come back, is because it's a great opportunity to tighten things up. Everybody's got to be on their A game right now. And it's important to be on all cylinders, technically, creatively, your communication skills with your client, serving your guests, but also the business side. And this is going to be an era where those that live in the middle, the ones that are strong technically, but also have sound business building practices, and I'll give you some examples of how to manifest that in a moment. There's just lots of upside here.
Yeah, there is. And I think that's something that people can be excited about, especially if you can harness it. And one of the ways we're going to harness that today is in a 9 grid, right? That's how we're going to focus on that. How do people build their 9 grids? How do we, it's such an interesting concept because, again, it is purely visual to get you started. And that's what appealed to me. So if someone's watching, like, what type of 9 grids could they be building today and how do they go about it?
Here's one that I think is relevant for everybody, whether you're an owner, you're a stylist, regardless. And this is a 9 grid that is used as a mind map. And a little bit more about the 9 grid. Let me give you a little bit more of a demo behind it, okay? So first of all, when you look at a 9 grid, it's really built on a lot of different principles. One of the things that we know is that creativity thrives with constraints. And there's a constraint here. You got 1 page, 9 grids. If you can't get it to 1 page and 9 grids, you're not clear enough, get creative, all right? And so it also follows the principles of photography, the rule of thirds, and it works with us visually. And so anyway, I'll give you an example of a mind map 9 grid that many are using to really deal with more the emotional side of the money aspect of the business. And it's just an activity that you could do by yourself or with your team, and just put in the center box, ways to calm my anxiety. And what happens is, as tactile learners, the connection from the hand to the brain and the heart to the hand is so evident. And so this is an activity that helps people get closure on things that they're afraid of. So this particular person, ways to calm my anxiety. So instructions to your viewers, just put it in a center box and get from out of your head down on paper the things that you're thinking and feeling. And what that'll do is it'll start to begin the process of manifesting change. This particular person dealt with planting flowers, journaling, taking walks, read more. We have another one that's a little more sophisticated. It's same topic in the center. This one requires a little bit more explanation, but compassion is often the solution. Go visual. Don't take anything personally, which is really a big one. Don't take things personally with clients. Big one is breathing too. And because of all the new equipment and face masks and et cetera, breathing and simple thing like oxygen is something new to deal with. Here's another one that also stays on that vein of, doing a mind map 9 grid with anxiety.
Yeah. So yeah, I love this because it doesn't have to be a financial project. It could be something emotional you're dealing with. The philosophies are the same. You start in the middle, build around it, and now you have your 9 basic key building blocks, right, that are keeping you focused. And I love the fact you're very true. I mean, creativity can be the best thing in your life, or it could be the worst. And if you don't have a focus or a harness on it, it's incredibly difficult. And the example I could give everybody watching this is when the guest sits down in your chairs and says, do whatever you want. I'm cool. You don't have any guideline. You don't have any structure to that. So instantly your brain starts thinking of anything and everything. Now, if that client sits down and says, hey, I want to trim up to here and I want it to be red, do what you want. Now, all of a sudden, I know about what length the guest is looking for and the color family that they're looking in. So now I could hone in and create something beautiful and brilliant based on those 2 restraints. No restraints, you have sky's the limit, which is overwhelming and it shuts you down. So I love the fact that it's 9 boxes. This is what you get, fill it and fit it. Super cool. Now, how would somebody use this like more towards business building or something like that, numbers?
Well, I think I've got 9 grid sitting over there. There's just put in the center box products, because here's one of the things we're seeing is a lot of inconsistency. Thank you, Aaron. A lot of inconsistency when they reopen in terms of retail sales. In certain cases, they're not as high as they could be because there's a reluctance to make the suggestion and the offer. Here's an example of a 9 grid that someone used to really build. And the beautiful thing about a 9 grid is they can be quite visual and bring out the artistic skills of a person. So here's an example, business building. And what we normally do, just to kind of tie this together, so this is the dashboard that we mentioned. And so we'll take one of these gray circles and have an individual fill out a 9 grid for what they personally will do to increase retail, to increase referrals, client retention, rebooking. So that applies to pretty much everybody here. And the thing is, we get stuck. We get hung up. We get too in our head. And the beauty of the 9 grid is it allows the head to kind of go to the hand, which then takes you to action.
Right on. I love it. Yeah, I love the visualness. So that to me made perfect sense. I think everybody that saw it, you could see their goal was to increase take-home sales. And then all the way around it was all the different ways they could do it. And I'm sure they had extra ideas there too, but they're like not good enough to make the grid. So now I know I have fewer things to focus on that are going to give me more meaning or more of a return. And that's either basically charge more or do more, and you're able to kind of wrap your head around it and increase your average ticket, which is huge. I think, that's one of the ways, even for me in my business, and you and I talked about this as well. I know for me, I'm going to have less chairs. I'm very cautious of making sure that my staff is still making a good living when they come in. I want their numbers to be pretty consistent to what they were, if not more. And I know that in order to keep paying my bills, if I have less people in, once, hopefully this boom of people coming in and making tons of money is going to stick around. But I also have to plan for the fact that, hey, once that bottleneck situation of 2 months, 3 months of people not getting in, once that filters through, I may be getting back to more of a business as usual type situation, which is not being as busy as I was, every appointment being sold, introducing more chairs. I think that's an important conversation to have too, because you're not saying, that just because you're one busy person doesn't mean that every single chair, that's what you're really talking about. Every chair inside of your space, not sitting empty, right, that should be generating an income. And I think a lot of salons make a mistake on, well, we're busy. We have 6 people and they're booked all the time, but you might have 12 chairs. So you're really looking at keeping, that's kind of what's been happening, in my opinion. Once we reopen, we moved those other 6 chairs. We're not blow drying a lot of salons. So they're still making those bigger numbers. But what happens when the blow dries come back? If you're not avoiding blow dries for now, what happens when those other chairs come back? You still want them to be busy and profitable. You don't want people sitting in the back, 1 or 2 people waiting, for a guest to come in. So focusing on these things like increasing the average ticket is huge, because if we can start to train behavior now and guests need product and they want to purchase it, that means, we do our job in this beginning phase. Once we get back to normal, they're going to be purchasing products from us. This is behavior that we can kind of train throughout now. And those average ticket, that's, to me, if I'm being honest, that's the difference between reopening and staying open.
Right. So, so 9 grids is one of our visual communication methods. In the work I've done with owners and managers, I've done a lot of whiteboarding. And the whiteboarding is really allows an unveiling of an idea or a concept. It's a teaching method. Yeah. And some of the things that we've been teaching owners and managers, but this applies to everybody, is certain financial disciplines. It's the financial function of the business is in many, many cases the weakest. And it can't be weak anymore. I mean, this is a time to really level up. I keep using that term, level up. And what we've done is we've worked really hard to make information accessible. I'll give you some examples. There's certain skills that really are needed right now. And one is the ability to zoom in and zoom out. And, just think of an example, even when you're online and you want to view something up close or step back, this whole idea of zooming in and zooming out. And that's a skill that needs to be learned. We've seen a lot of owners that were so zoomed in on the Paycheck Protection Program that they weren't really looking out what was going to happen beyond that. They were ignoring parts of the business. And so what we've been really trying to do is to help people make really good financial decisions, including some very complicated ones related with lease negotiations. Certain people, they thought they needed to file for bankruptcy and they really didn't. Certain people made decisions regarding their team. By the way, worst decision you can make is to be out of communication. That's probably the biggest thing. 2 worst decisions is to be out of communication with your stakeholders, and the other thing is to try to do it alone. If I were to look at sort of the 2 biggest mistakes, whether owner, manager, stylist, is this is not a time for isolation. This is a time to reach out. Obviously, we need to reach in and build strength and courage and find the resilience in us, but we also need to reach out to other people and not communicating with your team, your clients, your stakeholders, your landlord, your bank, your family. I mean, this is the time to communicate. Zoom in and zoom out is a skill that we teach as it relates to financial management. So many people, they get so zoomed in on one piece of a P&L, for example, they don't step back and they can't give you the big picture. And we teach a skill around that. The other thing is a practice we call week in, week out. And this is a practice that applies to owners and it applies to stylists. One of the things that we recommend is something called Tuesday tracking. We also call it 2-minute tracking. Mm-hmm. And this is just once a week, look at last week's totals for you as an individual. You might have them in your head. They might be somewhere on your point of sale system, but it doesn't really connect with you. So Tuesday tracking has been a way for people to have extraordinary growth through just a very simple ritual each week. Week in, week out, also as it applies to owners and managers, you have to have a time every week where you sit down and have full focus on the financial part of the business. For me, it was always, as a salon owner, for me, it was Thursdays at noon. I had to think about marketing and staffing and education, and I had a lot of other things as a salon owner, but Thursday noon was my week in, week out. Made the decisions, what we're gonna spend, what we're not gonna spend, what the trend of the business is. So week in, week out is a really important practice. And we go pretty deep into that in our curriculums. So
no, that's such good advice. And I do think, again, a lot of stylists like avoid that stuff because it's something that, especially if you're, oh, and I told you this right out of the gate, like I never opened up my own business because I was a whiz with numbers, or I was essentially unemployable. Like I didn't work well with others. Like that was me. I want to do things my way. And that's how I ended up with my own salon. And I don't know about other people that are listening, but when I got my salon, I thought, man, this is easy. I'm booking $5,500 a week in hair color and my rent's only $5,500. So if I take that 1 week, boom, the rest is mine. Like that's how hairdressers kind of think, when it comes to business. Not all of us, but a lot of us. We really open our own business for independence or for freedom of creativity. And now all of a sudden you have this beautiful big business, and now you're hustling. Like we said in the beginning, you're keeping the money coming in, and that's worked. But what I realized through all this is, hey, once the money stops, what else could I have done differently or worked harder at? And just sitting down and focusing on those numbers is huge, because a lot of hairdressers, they're just continuously working through it, especially if they're working owners. They're just trying to build that bank up. And what you're saying is take a few minutes, understand the numbers, and that could make you double, triple, right? If you're spending it and using it correctly.
I think that our biggest sense of urgency, like 10 weeks ago, we just started doing all this stuff. And I just knew in the moment, as all of us knew, that many people could be one financial decision away from sustainability and the alternative. And I feel very fortunate. Early in my career, I had the opportunity to work with turnaround specialists, be involved in a lot of projects. It was a very distressed company, like in severe trouble. And what do you do? What do you do, whether it's a company or an individual? And love seeing the before and after stories. And some of the lessons that I learned in working with turnaround experts, I mean, those people that you call when, it's an absolute crisis. One of the things that I learned was something called push the pulse. The pulse has to go much, much quicker in a distressed crisis situation. Let me give you an example that's very actionable by everybody here. Is many small businesses, many salons, right now, they don't do an exceptionally good job of projecting cash flow. Or if they do, maybe it's on a monthly basis, but in all the projects I've worked on when it was a crisis, and we're in a crisis right now, you have to push the pulse. You have to move from monthly to daily. And one of our core tools and core practices is just this daily cash flow. It's a cash flow planner, but it's more than a cash flow planner. It's really a way to get a handle on your business, because your stakeholders also need to know what your cash flow plan looks like. And so we've had examples of some that were already doing a good job. They were monthly, but they push the pulse and they bring it down to daily. And what we're seeing people make some really great, smart decisions. And we're seeing some people make some not so great decisions. And I think the shout out to you and the Paul Mitchell team, I think that you're creating a forum to help people make really good decisions. And that's where we intersect here.
Yo, for sure. And that's what drew me right to you guys. Was this is information that I think is so helpful and huge. And I know me, at the beginning of this, you kind of lost the ability again, just to get to work, which for a lot of people was just losing control. And I realized, oh man, I got to get stronger and take more control of my business and my numbers and everything else. And I think that once I started to change my focus, that gave me life through this whole situation, because you can control things. It's not just the hustling and coming into work and making people feel great. There are things you can be aware of, and it's extremely helpful. It is a difference again between reopening and staying open. Or it's the difference between, I see so many hairdressers, and I know you feel the same way. So many stylists that are working 6-7 days a week. Like, is that successful? Like having to work 7 days a week to keep your business open. And a lot of that really is its fault in not spending that couple hours on the numbers and getting a coach to help you really understand, like, hey, here's what's happening. none of us were trained this way. Very few hairdressers were trained or even know how to talk to their CPA. And they'll just sit there and sign whatever they're told to sign and move on. And that's why you're working 7 days a week. And I think what you guys bring to the table is the ability for people to see visually what's happening and then to make that connection with what these numbers, what these things mean. And that is the difference between, working 7 days a week and working 4 and really having a successful business. And I think that's really important now. So I love the work you guys are doing.
You made me think of something in terms of like talking with CPAs and what have you. Part of what I want to do is I want to build a bridge. I want to build a bridge between, being a former CPA, being someone that really understands that function, and then also working with a lot of entrepreneurs. Being an entrepreneur myself, there's a big gap. And a lot of times it's just different language. And I think I shared this with you, and as part of my photography collection, I did a whole series on graffiti. And graffiti is a language, and it's it's an artistic language. It's subject to interpretation. That ain't true with financial language. A word means something, and that's what it means. And bankers and accountants, who in many cases are the people you're going to be dealing with, they use a different language. So we teach words that matter. So financial literacy is something that is an opportunity for improvement. And the other thing, when you mention CPA, is there's a lot of confusion about different roles and what to expect from your CPA, your bookkeeper. We did a whole whiteboard module on that, the difference between a bookkeeper, an accountant, a CPA, and who to go to, how much to spend. And because I really have seen that to be a big area of confusion. And we're all about unity, we're really all about, bringing things together. And bringing things together, a big piece to that is how to use your financial experts, how to speak a language they understand, how to get the most out of them, because this is not a time to do it alone. At the same time, we have to be very cautious in terms of what fees that we can tolerate right now as business owners and stylists. So.
Yeah, one of the best decisions I made is for decades, I've had my CPA on retainer. And that is a very helpful decision. And for the most time, I didn't use them at all. But the past 2 months, I probably called him every day. And he picked up first, and that was a decision I made, because you need to trust people in this business. And you need to have people that are good at things you're not so great at. But you also need to take time to learn that language. You can't just expect everyone to speak yours. And I think that's where you guys have been incredibly helpful, even to me, throughout this whole thing. So I know one of the things today that we were going to what are some tips, some things that people can do to help weather this financial storm that they're currently in? I know you guys have some great little tips and tricks on this as well. What are some ways that, people need to really focus on? What some things that they should really be looking at right now?
Well, certainly, I've mentioned several of them. Just cash is king. It's the oxygen of the business. And preservation of cash is vitally important right now. So to make very good decisions, you need to start building your new financial model. And I already talked a little bit earlier about your new P&L, and all I talked about was pricing. But one of the things to do is to really start modeling, start looking at what your new model will look like. For example, if you look at a profit and loss statement, there's certain expenses that will change. For example, supplies will change because sanitation costs are going to go up. There's different new equipment that you're going to need. And so be proactive around that. And a lot of it's sort of floating around in people's heads, but get it down on paper, put it into a simple model so you can proactively move forward to that. The other thing is simplify. It's just to really, in terms of like communicating with your team or communicating with your clients, be real clear and simple in your communication, using visual communication. There's a lot of, as we see salons opening, it's putting visual cues in the salon so guests and staff know what to do. You can't miss what you're supposed to do. I think a really big one, and this one hits my heart, and this is take this as an opportunity to learn the financial part of the business.
Big time.
Take this as an opportunity, and because it's going to get you through short-term and long-term. And that was the opening I saw, because for 25 years, I really, really tried to help people better understand the financial side. And it's not exciting. I mean, it's very linear. It's numbers and text, and hopefully we can make it more visual and interesting and engaging and for a creative mind, but take the opportunity to learn and study, which is difficult for many people right now because they're so caught up in the urgency of the moment. Another thing to keep in mind is that where you put your focus. And our brains are like Velcro for negative experience and Teflon for positive. Mm-hmm. And the overconsumption of negative news is going to get in the way. A friend of mine said, salons are hard to grow and they're hard to kill. And I see a ton of reasons for hope, but hope can't come in it itself. It has to come with action, and in particular, financial discipline and habits. And so we recommend some small bite-sized things that you can do week in, week out, developing a forward focus, pushing the pulse, so on and so forth. Tracking is really important too. And we think that just because the computer tracks numbers, that it actually has meaning to us, or has meaning to you. But going through that process of really digesting numbers on a weekly basis. See, so many people are zoomed in and they're looking at the daily totals and what they did. You've got to be able to zoom out and really do some tracking. So those are a few things that come top of mind, Colin.
All brilliant things. And I love zooming in, zooming out. I'm writing notes myself. I learn something every time I talk to you, and you're right. Sometimes you're hyper focused on the right things that could end up being the wrong things because you're not seeing the big picture. And this sounds like a silly question, but I know are people watching this saying, what's a P&L statement? These are the types of things that, if someone's just young and opening their own business, you guys have all this type of stuff that, if they go to Qnity, QNITY Inc.com, they can learn more about these types of things, what they are. So I just want to tell people, if you don't know what a P&L statement is, it's okay. It's a profit and loss statement, but you'll put it better. But they can actually go to your page and learn more about this stuff, correct?
Yeah. And, I'm so glad you said that, because we take for granted that people understand terminology, and we can't take for granted. That really is not fair to people that may not have had the education. That was a big impetus for me in creating Qnity, is to make things such as a P&L become more approachable. Because a P&L, it's a profit and loss statement. It's very simple. It's money in, money out. And we can deal with all the complexities around that, but it's just a measurement period. And if you're a business, it's called a profit and loss statement. It's also called an income statement. If you're an individual, you also have a P&L. It's the same thing. Money in, money out. Now, there's all sorts of little elements to it. And one of the things that we've done is break what could be a very complicated small numbers type document and put it into grids. I love grids. I actually wanted to be an architect, ended up being an accountant. I guess I'm both now.
Yeah, there you go.
I use architectural and grid type design to convey financial information, and to take a profit and loss statement and really boil it down to the basic sections to it. And I'm really glad you asked that question. So,
yeah, I mean, it's very simple. Even if you're just have your own chair and you have to understand what your expenses are. You should know, if you've been open longer than a month, these are all my bills, whether it's electricity or rent or product or whatever it is. And then you basically subtract your profit from that. And that's whatever's left over is your profit margin. You could be up or down, but the trick is it's not an emotional thing. And that's what I love about numbers. They're not emotional. We're the emotional created people. But if I know, oh my God, the only thing I needed to do last month was 3 more highlights, and I could have cut my bill, got rid of cable or whatever it is, you can actually know that you're in control of the situation. You know, maybe I overspent on products last month, and you know what? I'm too zoomed in on what I need to get. But if I looked back at last June, I would have saw my numbers were a little slower in June. So maybe I don't need to order all this product. What you spend your money on is really, really key in, you know, deciding whether or not you're going to be successful. And I know a lot of owners, myself included, especially in my younger days, were very emotional. Didn't want to run out of things, and I would just buy, and then wonder why I had to work 7 days a week. So there's a lot of great information that you guys provide. I love your whiteboard videos. They're absolutely amazing. I know a couple of them are on YouTube as well. So if people want to check those out, you should definitely check out Qnity on YouTube as well. And you can really get a pretty good feel for what you guys are doing at Qnity. Where else can they go to get, you know, to really log in? And what are some other things that, you know, they want to dig a little deeper in? I'm really curious about the picture behind you as well.
So, you know, it's a few different options. We do have something. It's a free. We call it a gray paper. We don't have white papers because Qnity is not black. We're not white. We're gray. We really believe in the importance of living in the middle, putting your head and your heart, your left brain, your right brain, business and creative. So we have a series of what are called gray papers, and we have one right now that we just released on its 8 different ways to prosper right now. Super visual. It's free. We'll send you a link. You can send it off to your community. Okay. So a gray paper, very actionable, beautiful, easy to follow. Secondly, the 9-grid tool. I mean, this notebook here, it's a smart notebook. We actually, if I can brag a little bit, we actually won a National Graphic Design Award for this 9-grid tool. It can be used in all different directions. We've got examples of how to use it for all areas of your life. I don't want this to sound like a commercial. What I want to do is I want to just suggest that we have the 9-grid book that's available. And what we've done is we've created a mini course right now. And it's not just the 9-grid, but the 9-grid, use the 9-grid to make more money. And it's full of different tips, examples, what our community, and we brought 9-grid all over the world. So we now have the book, and what we just launched like now for your community and going forward is not only the 9-grid book, but also a mini course, how to make money with this simple tool. And then for the owners and the managers out there that really want to take financial management and profitability to a whole nother level, we have our simple course. It's called Plan for Profits. It's a 5-module program. And what we've done is we've put a bunch of COVID-19 particular things to do right now. And that for like another week, that's available on a pay-what-you-can basis. And then we're going to move into some partnerships with some great organizations to take things to a whole nother level, because we've created a financial sustainability coalition and starting to work with many organizations that really want to take a stand for pro beauty. So the restaurant industry is just so tough, but I think the professional beauty industry with the right leadership coming from you guys, coming with some of our community, some of the stuff we're doing together, I think we can come through this, but you got to take action. So anyway, 3 different things for viewers. Free tool, gray paper, we'll send a link, 8 ways to prosper, 9-grid book, it's $24.95, includes a course, and then the Plan for Profit program, that's for owners and managers, and that's on a pay-what-you-can basis. And that's normally $1,997, but it's only for 1 more week. So.
Wow. And that's just because, I mean, and that was when we first connected. That's what I love about you guys. And I think you fit very well with how we are at Paul Mitchell as well. You wanted to help right out of the gate, and that was it. That's the thing with you, Tom. It's not about, you know, it's never been about commercial anything. You are trying to help. And I think, like I said, you're the real deal. You guys actually have a brilliant company that can help a lot of hairdressers be good at something that, you know, was a little intimidating. You take the fear out of it. You keep only the stuff you need to know. It's not like it's loaded with all this, let me show you how smart I am. It is, this is what you need to know. This is how you need to understand it. And this is how you can creatively and visually connect to it. And I think, you know, the more people that see you guys and the more people that hear from you guys, the more successful salons we're going to have out there. And I think I truly mean that. You guys do a great job. What is that? I'm ready to hear about it, Tom. I love this.
Image kind of says it all for us. And it's so simple, but whether you're a stylist, whether you're an owner, whether you're a manager, whoever you are, many times we're going to be in the state of confusion, being overwhelmed, unclear, afraid, scared. And how can we move from the state over to a state where you start to meet your financial goals and vision? And it's quite simple. It's probably the simplest way to describe what we do is how to move from that state, and how to do it recognizing that we all have a head and heart, how we can put our head and heart into this. And it's not only earning more money, but it's doing what you love and having a great quality of life. So that's really what we're all about. And I think that's what you guys are all about too. You always have been.
100%, man. And it's all about the hairdressers and a better quality of life. No one's saying you have to be a gazillionaire to do that. You just have to have a little bit of time, a little bit of sanity, so you can do what you love doing the most, which is hair, and do it in a way that, you're able to pay your bills. And I always say, this isn't my hobby anymore. It was. This is my career. And, I want to be able to support my family and hopefully leave my business to the next generation. And even if they don't want to work in the hair industry, have a successful business that's making people who work in it successful all the way down. I think that's what you guys have really proven to me through this. And I'm really glad that we got to meet, and I'm really looking forward to working with you guys more. I can't wait to hear about the average ticket and how to increase things more. I want more from you guys. And I really, really thank you, man. You are the real deal. You're I don't know if this has ever happened before, but you're the visual numbers guy, which I think is awesome. I don't know how that works, but that's really cool.
I'll own it.
And I love that you did photography too. That was really, I love photography as well, and to slow your brain down and to work on that and to really make that visual, really to connect to visual learning, I think is awesome. And we're going to go places, man. And I can't wait to see how many people you help.
Thank you. Right back at you, Colin.
Thanks, my brother. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I will definitely tell you, go to qnityinc.com, check out more. Please do it for your business. Put a little bit of time in there, like Tom was saying. Even if it's an hour once a week, to really just put some energy back into your business. That little bit of energy you put into it is going to give you a lot more time in your life to do a lot more things that you love, friends, family, whatever that is. And, let's continue to learn together and push and push. And Tom, hopefully you'll join us again soon.
Twist my arm.
Right on. If Aaron's close by, Aaron, if you're close by, it was good to see you today as well. And thank you guys. Really, I can't stress this enough, man. You guys are helping salons. You're always on the phone with salons. You're always pushing. And that means the world to all of us. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Colin. I enjoyed it.
Ciao.
Bye now.